The night I discovered my mother was a serial killer, I didn't scream. I didn't run. I just stood there, watching her wash the blood off her hands, already planning the day I'd make her pay for every life she stole. The bathroom smelled like bleach, but underneath it was something sharper, metallic. She caught my reflection in the mirror and smiled like nothing was wrong. I was 16 then, and I thought monsters only lived in books. But there she was, my own mother, peeling off latex gloves, humming softly. The news that week had been filled with missing persons reports. Our small town was gripped by fear. I never connected the dots, never imagined the killer could be in our kitchen, making me breakfast every morning. When she walked past me that night, her perfume almost masked the faint coppery tang that clung to her clothes. I wanted to ask why. Why them? Why now? But she would have lied. My mother was a master storyteller, the kind who could turn a murder into an alibi without blinking. Instead, I went to my room, shut the door, and stared at the ceiling for hours, feeling the ground under my life crack open. That's when the thought came. Sharp, cold, certain. I wouldn't run to the police. I wouldn't confront her. No. That would make me the next body in the woods. I would wait. I would learn her patterns. And when the time was right, I would destroy her. But for now, I had to play the dutiful daughter. I had to be her shadow. In the weeks that followed, I became an actor in my own house. At breakfast, I laughed at her jokes. At dinner, I thanked her for the food. But behind my eyes, I was memorizing every little habit. She left the house on Thursdays at midnight. She kept a locked box in the attic. She always came home smelling faintly of earth, like she'd been digging. One night, I followed her. Not too close, just far enough to watch her car snake through the empty streets. She parked at the edge of the woods, near an old hunting cabin. My heart slammed in my chest as she got out, dragging something wrapped in black plastic. She disappeared inside and the door shut. I stayed in the shadows, shivering, knowing that inside that cabin was proof. When she returned home that night, I pretended to be asleep. But my mind was on fire. That cabin was the key. If I could get inside, I could end her reign of terror. But rushing in would get me killed. I needed leverage. Something she couldn't explain away. Something even she couldn't twist into innocence. Every day I played the long game, hiding my revulsion behind fake smiles. But inside, the hatred grew like a storm, and I knew one thing for certain. When the time came, my revenge wouldn't just stop her. It would make her fear me. Following her that night changed everything. I knew exactly where she hid her secrets, and I was patient enough to wait for the right moment. I didn't rush in. I didn't make a sound. Instead, I watched, memorized, and cataloged every step she took. Each routine became a blueprint I could exploit. I realized that knowledge was my most dangerous weapon, and she had unknowingly handed it to me. Days turned into weeks. I learned her patterns, her quirks, her safe spots. The locked box in the attic became an obsession. Every time she left, I imagined the contents, photographs, names, evidence of every life she had stolen. I didn't panic. I wasn't afraid anymore. Fear was a tool she had used on others, but now it fueled me, sharpened my mind, and focused every thought on my inevitable revenge. I started small, testing her reactions. One evening, I left a note by the front door, signed anonymously, hinting that someone knew what she had done. She froze for a moment, her perfectly calm exterior cracking ever so slightly. That tiny slip thrilled me. She was human. She could be rattled, and once I had her shaken, I could control everything. Inside the cabin, I discovered her methods. She kept meticulous records, names, dates, even maps marking where she had taken them. The precision was terrifying. But to me, it was also beautiful. Every detail I uncovered was another piece of the chessboard. Every file, every photograph, Every trace of her crimes became a weapon I could wield without ever stepping into her line of sight. I knew I had to be patient. One wrong move and I'd be exposed. So I began planting subtle evidence that would slowly draw the authorities' attention, all while maintaining the perfect facade at home. I laughed at breakfast with her, cleaned up her kitchen, and played the obedient child, all the while orchestrating the collapse of her empire of lies. Her arrogance worked in my favor. She believed she was untouchable, that the lives she destroyed could never intersect in a way that threatened her. She never suspected that I had seen the body in the cabin, that I had traced every route she used, or that I knew exactly how she operated. That illusion of control would be her downfall. The more I observed, the more I realized that patience was power. Every late-night outing, every carefully hidden conversation, every sloppy disposal of evidence was a thread I could pull to unravel her carefully constructed life. I wasn't acting on emotion. I was executing a plan, precise, calculated, and merciless. Finally, I set my trap. I left a trail, small, seemingly innocent hints that suggested someone knew her secrets. It wasn't a confrontation. It wasn't a confession. It was subtle, almost invisible, and yet the effect was immediate. She began second-guessing, checking her locks, rewinding her routines. I could see the stress mounting, feel the tension in her presence. That was when I knew. She had no idea I was in control. The person she thought was powerless, the one she had manipulated and used, and by the time she realized it, every move she thought was secret would be turned against her, all without her ever knowing I was the force behind it. I wasn't just planning revenge. I was planning perfection. And the next step would ensure that the monster who had made me her unwilling accomplice for 16 years would finally face the consequences of every life she had stolen. The day finally came when every piece of my plan was in place. Years of observation, patience, and silent scheming had built a web so intricate that even my mother couldn't see it coming. I didn't confront her, didn't yell, didn't threaten. Instead, I let the evidence speak. Every photograph, every record, every hidden file was ready to be revealed to the authorities, carefully positioned so she couldn't twist the truth. I watched as the first ripple began. Calls came in, questions were asked, and people she had relied on for protection started to turn. Slowly, like a domino, her world began to unravel. She checked doors twice, rewound her routines, whispered to herself in frustration. The monster who had terrorized so many now trembled in fear, not knowing who had set the collapse in motion. The satisfaction was quiet, but immense. I wasn't just getting justice. I was reclaiming my life. Every calculated move had been invisible to her, but its effects were undeniable. The woman who had manipulated, deceived, and destroyed for years finally realized she was powerless, and it was too late to stop the consequences. Finally, the authorities arrived, guided by the trail I had meticulously created. She looked at me, eyes wide, as if seeking a lifeline, a plea for mercy. I didn't flinch. I didn't speak. My silence was louder than any accusation. The same woman who had instilled fear in others now faced the terror she had ignored for so long. I had transformed fear into empowerment. Every life she had tried to erase, every secret she had buried, became a tool of her downfall. I had taken the role of the pawn and turned it into the ultimate power. Revenge wasn't about shouting or confrontation. It was about precision, patience, and intelligence. And as she was taken away, handcuffed, I allowed myself a small, satisfied smile. Justice was served, not loudly, not chaotically, but perfectly. I had survived, I had outsmarted her, and I had reclaimed control of my life. Now I turn the question to you. What would you have done in my shoes? Could you have waited, observed, and executed revenge with precision? Or would emotion have gotten the better of you? Have you ever discovered a horrifying secret about someone you loved? Share your thoughts in the comments. I read everyone's comment. Before we finish, if you haven't subscribed yet, hit that button. Your support keeps this channel alive and allows me to bring more shocking, emotional, and revenge-driven stories straight to you. Remember, patience and strategy can turn the tables in ways no one expects, and sometimes the quietest moves deliver the loudest consequences.